I lived in a coastal town named after its frequent rain and thunderstorms. I called rainfall my home. It was a picturesque locale, situated along a shoreline. There was an idyllic charm you experienced when you stood on a faraway hill, watching the powerful waves crash against the rocky cliffs near the sandy beach. There were a few bustling harbors filled with fishing boats and the shouty fishermen who sailed the ocean. I breathed in the refreshing, salty breeze that wafted through me. I could have stood there all night long. The rhythmic lull of the waves created the perfect atmosphere to fall asleep. All I needed was a soft bed of grass to lie in. I'd stare up at the starry night sky in my own personal oasis. But life wasn't that simple. I had to work for a living, just like everyone else. I was jolted back to reality when a blood-red Mustang behind me impatiently honked their horn. The light was green, and I was in my own fantasy land. It was a Friday night. People were rushing home from work. Some would go to the club or to some other entertainment venue. I was a personal driver. I worked for a high-end client. It paid fairly well, but I knew I was a servant to the rich and mighty. That never sat right with me, but it allowed me to take care of myself and my wife, Scarlett. That's the one thing I always came back to whenever I had a shitty day. At least I get to go home to my favorite woman every night, I often thought. The man I drove for was Abel Armoni, the biggest prick in Rainfall. He lived in some flowery mansion with an above-ground pool, a vegetable garden, and a dozen maids who catered to his every whim. If he asked them to inspect the inside of his ass cheeks, they'd do it without question. I wouldn't. That conversation would end with his eyes spilling a dark red liquid. I'd have his pale ass on my bedroom wall. It sounded harsh, but you didn't know him like I did. I was driving him to his regular destination, the Armoni nightclub. He owned it. Well, he actually inherited it. He didn't know what it meant to work hard. I used to shed tears and spill blood. All he did was gamble and sleep with hookers. He was a degenerate, but he paid my bills. I swallowed my pride and did what I had to do to survive. I tried to drown out the obnoxious click-clacking of Abel's fingers with the radio music, but he told me to keep it down. He was the type of man who didn't pay attention to his surroundings. He was so rich and powerful, he didn't need to. He had his nose glued to his phone almost every minute of every day. He marched forward, and people stepped out of his way. He snapped a finger, and whatever he requested was a done deal. No questions asked. It churned my stomach. I secretly wanted to see him fall. He didn't deserve any of it. He was garbage.
Detective Albert Gamble has no updates on the missing persons cases of Jade Gamble and Lysandra Pierce, two women from the town of Rainfall who were reportedly abducted by someone called the Rainfall Abductor. What a clever name. Geniuses, huh? I wonder how they came up with that. Who gives a shit? Why do they still report this? It's been years. They're dead. They should stop reporting it. It's depressing, and it annoys me. I know Albert and Jade, but come on, let it fucking go. They're long gone, Abel whined.
What do you think happened to them?
Oh, I don't really give a shit. The past is the past. Can you drive faster? I want to get there already.
Yes, sir. Right away.
Keep it down. I need to make an important phone call.
I accelerated as I gritted my teeth. I longed for the day when I could tell him to fuck off. He was being a complete dick. Lysandra Pierce was my best friend's wife. She disappeared a long time ago. Many people believe she was abducted that night. I didn't doubt it. She had gone alone to the beach. She wanted to take pictures. She never came home that night. She was never seen or heard from again. It turned out to be the biggest mistake of her life. Jade's story was similar.